I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about the Sydney Sweeney controversy. There's some, I'm sure many of you have already seen a particular video that I'm going to show you guys, but there's more, and it's crazy, the sort of narratives that are going around about it. Even, people writing about it in the Washington Post and so on. And at the same time, where there's this controversy going on, there's another one that I guess isn't getting as much play. I mean, people are talking about it on TikTok. My sister actually told me about it maybe a few days ago. But I don't think this one is really breaching the right-wing conservative spheres yet. Is the controversy around Ralph Lauren and their Oaks Bluff commercial. The Oaks Bluff line that Ralph Lauren has done, it's to signify a culture and period in history where, like on Martha's Vineyard, there's this area where Black people do go and have gone historically, where they feel safe, the piece of that plot of land where they could be comfortable. And folks are I don't know, they just see it as elitist, and they equate wealth, I guess, even if it's Black wealth, to white supremacy, I guess, or, capitalism equals bad. And some of the takes are insane. Fortunately, like on TikTok, when I've searched it, I'm seeing a lot of people rebuke those sorts of attitudes, negative attitudes that people are having toward it. But I do have a whopper to show you guys. So it's just very interesting, these two conflicts with these different clothing lines going on right now. And people thinking that, being offended because they think Sydney Sweeney is supposed to represent white excellence or something. I think the point is that Sydney Sweeney just represents excellence herself, and her marketing of her just kind of being the pinnacle of peak beauty and sexiness or whatever. If you're into her like that or whatever, I get it, but I just I don't know. I wouldn't think she's peaked myself, but I understand, I guess. But this versus, people being upset about showing well-to-do Black people and advertising polo shirts and sweaters and things with Black people, and folks being upset with that. And the video that I'm going to show you guys is someone saying our relationship with polos are stealing them. And folks are like, who is we? We didn't steal nothing. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? So interesting show for today. Also, a judge did also block the defunding of Planned Parenthood, which is insane because it's not like Trump signed an executive order. It was done by Congress passing a bill. So that I assume that's going to be overturned very quickly, but it's really amazing what these judges are doing. I wonder if some of them are, I could believe that some of these judges are just purely activists and really don't have a real respect for the law, I guess, and are willing to bastardize it. But a part of me, and I guess maybe a bit of conspiratorial part of me, is like, I wonder if they're just doing all this kind of crazy stuff, seeing as far as they can go, pushing back against the Trump administration. And this isn't even the Trump administration, this is, Congress itself, and saying that go ahead and try to impeach us. We're going to see where we can test the limits, and are you willing to do that? Because if we're willing to do that, then eventually maybe they're going to be willing to do that to our side. So I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I had a nice weekend. Yesterday I just had an issue. I wasn't sick or anything, though I do feel a tickle in my throat. So I don't know if my niece was. I noticed when I picked her up, her nose was a little snotty, and I wiped her nose, and I asked her mom. I said, "Is she sick?" She's like, "I don't know." Like, kids are always sick and spreading things. So I don't know if something's trying to resurface, because as sick as I was like last week, I didn't really feel like a constant kind of itchy, and it feels a little itchy. So I hope I'm not reverting or have something new, but I just want to put it out there. But yeah, yesterday I had like some car issue stuff that I had to take care of, and I just couldn't get home in time to really do studio stuff. And so it bummer, but it is what it is. That's life. That's life. But thank you for your patience. I hope you guys had a good weekend yourselves. I just want to check my audio, make sure. No, my audio is not coming through my microphone. Hold on. Um, hmm. Okay. There we go. That should sound better. That should sound better. Yeah, working in elementary school, you would catch like a lot of stuff. Or maybe you could become like, I don't know, super immune to all things, but I hope I'm, okay. I don't feel like they usually, I think sometimes there was a time I might have got them sick, but she didn't seem like too terribly sick yesterday, but I mean on Sunday. Anyway, let's get to the news. I apologize for starting a little late. I'm sure you guys have seen the controversy. I already saw like Ben Shapiro talked about it today. Michael Knowles, his like, and I think that wasn't even, I think, the main story of Ben's show. It was probably the main story of like Michael's show today. I didn't watch Michael's show. But the Sweeney, Sydney Sweeney ad is very interesting to me, because when I first saw it, I didn't like the ad. I didn't care for the ad myself, because I just thought it was a little too sexual. you know, I and some people were asking like, who is this for? Like, are the men going to buy the jeans for the women and be like, buy these jeans, sweetheart, you'll look great in these jeans? Like, is that what's supposed to go down? Like, because they paid her a lot of money for it. So like, who's it really for? Like, are they trying to kind of recapture that Megan Fox transformer sort of appeal? Because one of these ads, they have her like, over the hood of a car. Let me just go ahead and play this particular one. There's a few, but my first thought was just kind of like, it's not for me. I get it though. I get it. It's just not for me.
Sydney Sweeney has her jeans.
Cars, hot chicks, jeans, American Eagle brand. And there's other ones where she's just like kind of laying down and her chest are out, and and she's in the different jeans, and it's really supposed to play off of her sex appeal. And there's ads where she, talking about her good jeans, and people are comparing it to old ads versus new ads, when it was like just a wokeathon, like inclusive, everybody be inclusive, all shapes, all forms and whatnot. And now you got just the hot stuff. And she is like hot stuff to folks, and I understand. Okay. But I just thought the ads were, a little distasteful for me. But I get it. I get it. But that's not why people are upset, because they find it a little too sexy. Okay? They don't like it because they were saying it's Nazi propaganda. And even when I was hearing people talk about it being Nazi propaganda, I didn't even understand what they meant. And so in these ads, she talks about herself having good genes. And that's what people are upset about. Sydney talking about having good genes, and American Eagle saying that she has good genes, and so on. So this video's made the rounds. I first saw it was on TikTok. Someone put it on X. I think X is how it really got around. I don't know. So a lot of people have replied to this one. I've replied to it on TikTok and other places. I put it on YouTube already, but here we go if you haven't seen it.
I will be the friend that's too woke, because those Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ads are weird. Like fascist weird. Like Nazi propaganda weird.
My body's composition is determined by my genes. Hey, eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like a blonde-haired...
Okay, so already she says American Eagles making Nazi propaganda. We love our American Eagles, man. We feel that they represent us. They are representative of the United States. That's just part of our symbolism. If you see a video or some Brits talking about the United States of America, even unpatriotic people will go in their comments and start like writing out eagle screeching noises. Okay. So her saying, well, oh, it's no surprise. It should be a surprise. An American Eagle would be doing this propaganda, fascist propaganda. Already we can see the septum ring, theory at work. When you see crazy videos, pay attention to how many people have that nose ring in there. And I'm sorry if you're a rational person with a nose ring, it's just going to be a thing that people point out where they notice some patterns there. I'm like people with purple hair. I'm sorry if you're a rational person with purple hair. But she just clearly doesn't like America. It would seem, just starting right off the bat. But let's continue watching her reasoning.
Blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda. I also am thinking about like all of the young girls who are doing their back to school shopping right now at places like American Eagle who are seeing ads like this. Yikes. Also, American Eagle is mostly a brand that like teenagers to like young adults shop at, and so the fact that like this type of advertising is being used that feels so for the male gaze and so over sexualized, like I just don't like it. I don't like it even a little bit. Bro, and I haven't even mentioned the fact that this entire ad campaign that Sydney Sweeney is doing right now is incredibly reminiscent to the Brooke Shields, Calvin Klein jeans ad campaign that she did when she was 14 years old. That was extremely over-sexualized and weird. Yeah. Why are we referencing that? Why are we referencing that? I thought we agreed that that was weird.
Okay, Sydney Sweeney is not 14 years old. And though I did see another hot take about this controversy, I just didn't have time to pull it up, where there was a guy on TikTok talking about how he thinks people just like Sydney Sweeney because she played a teenager on Euphoria. And I'm like, I mean, I know she was on that show. I know it was on HBO. I don't know. I didn't see it, but I've just seen her around, I guess. She was in that terrible Madam Web movie and other stuff. I just kind of don't I don't know, think it's fair to assume the men that like this woman like her because they're actually pedophiles. Is that like the accusation there, you know? And if she wanted to complain about it being very hypersexual, again, she did show the ad, but she was like sitting like zipping up her pants. You know, I usually do that before you get on camera. Yeah, you'd have a legitimate sort of criticism there talking about it's weird, but when you talk about it's Nazi propaganda, that's where you just lose people. I mean, a lot of people, I guess, maybe agreed with that sentiment, but anyway, let's keep going.
Weird that they had her do that. So we got a blonde hair, blue eye white woman talking about her good genes in an ad campaign that is a reference to a 14-year-old Brooke Shields, Calvin Klein's ad campaign that we've all agreed was really weird and predatory. Yeah, I don't like this one. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it, actually. Nope.
I mean, I don't really like the ads either, just to be frank. But their stock has gone up, and they're apparently got eyeballs, and they're selling jeans. Let me but it's obviously a play on words. They think that Sydney Sweeney is the one who has good genes. They think she's the one with the good genes. And in the conversation, when they bring up the genes, it's a general sense, and then she talks about her genes.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Yeah, her genes are blue. She has blue eyes, but her genes are blue. It's very on the nose with the puns. it's very on the nose. And there's people like, nope, we know what they're doing. She's a pawn. We know what they're doing. We know what they're trying to say. Or maybe you guys are just so invested into this stuff that everything sounds like like you're Nazis or someone is a Nazi. Maybe you're just so invested in that. Because again, I saw these commercials before, and I'm like, what are they talking about? Like I just see someone kind of spell it out, like you're talking about genes. And so I did a video last night. I did 2 of them on 2 different accounts, and one of them was responding to her video. And I mentioned that she has good genes. She's not talking about all white women with blonde hair and blue eyes, or all people with blonde hair and blue eyes. Sydney Sweeney has good genes, not everybody. And in another video, I was like, hashtag not all white women. She's not there to represent all white people. She's the one. She's the talent. She's the one getting the check. She's the one drawing the eyeballs. Okay? It's her. They're not hiring everybody else for this. It's her with the good genes. But in another video, I mentioned, I wonder how many, or I asked the question rather, I wonder how many people upset about this being a eugenics commercial are totally fine with abortion. They're totally fine with justifications for abortion, saying, well, if a woman can't financially afford it, or has an abortion for financial reasons, then it's okay to kill the child because they could be poor. That's eugenics, bro. That's eugenics. And as a matter of fact, right before I came on this live, I was listening to a TikTok live debate where someone was justifying abortion, and it was an 18-year-old male justifying abortion, and so they're asking questions to challenge his view and stuff. And so he's like, well, I think situationally, you know, you might need it for different circumstances. And it's like, so if you're poor, you know. And they're like, okay, well, what if you apply that outside of the womb? And most people would say, well, they're born then. But he was still like, well, it would still just depend on the situation. Like if they're going to be destitute and starve, like you know, it's like the same thing. And I'm just listening to him like, this dude saying that you can kill them. and I think he was the one who said he wouldn't make a law, or maybe there was the next guy who came on who basically said not the same thing about killing them after outside of the womb, but it was saying like if the people don't have money or whatever, you can unalive them. And they're like, well, I'm not saying you have to make a law to do that, because that would be eugenics, and that's evil. And I'm like, both of these situations are evil and eugenics. Like, what are you talking about? Killing people because they're poor? Or like, in my mind, I might have to do another TikTok. I was thinking, what immediately came to my mind was, if you've ever seen the show Attack on Titan, one of the best characters in the show is this guy named Levi, and he grew it's just kind of too much to explain, but Levi is like the baddest character in the show. There's these giant like Titan figures that attack and they eat people, and the main characters, they believe they're the last of civilization. And so Levi, he was raised like in like this flea bottom destitute part of the community where they live. And so he was like found and raised by his like nephew, and then he ended up like stealing and, you know, eating, and because they showed him he has like a big head, he's like malnourished and stuff when he's a kid, and then he grows up and then he ends up getting taken in by these scouts who go out and they survey the land, and they kill the Titans and stuff, and he becomes the baddest of them all. And so I'm just like, what if you want to kill someone because they're destitute, and then they become like the greatest like hunter of mankind, or weapon of mankind, or whatever they call them? I'm like, you just don't know what's going to happen. You assume all of these things. You're just assuming things. And you could mention like those things in third world countries. There's a danger for some of that stuff without charity and, you know, so on. But in the United States of America, I'm not saying that people don't starve, but we have so many programs to help people, and you could have the baby and not abort it. You could give them up to adoption to someone who can take care of them. You could drop a baby off at like a hospital, a police station. You could drop them off at a you know, a firefighter place, you know, just anywhere, not anywhere, but there's certain places where you can literally drop a baby off. So that, but people still go for that. And by the way, just because people say people have abortions for financial reasons doesn't mean that they're destitute. It could just be like, I don't want to be uncomfortable. Like, I didn't plan my life out for this. Kids are expensive. I'd rather buy a boat. You know, so don't think that everybody is you know, just really struggling out there, and that's why they don't want the kid. Like, they could be doing it for, I make nice money now, and the kid's gonna slow me down, and I got this raise coming up, and this, you know, I got this new job opportunity. So that's a financial reason. But that's not poverty. So but anyway, sorry to go into a rant. Sorry, I didn't mean to get distracted. But how many of those people are okay with offing kids then, in that circumstance, are okay with offing kids who have Down syndrome in the womb, or other sorts of conditions that they can live through, not even ones that are deemed like, you know, ones that are incompatible with life, which I think that's a weird phrase. If you're incompatible with life, then you are dying. I don't think that you're gonna, I think that's an immediate thing, not, you know, something that could happen in 2 years or whatever. Like, you know, you should do your best to care for your patient as long as you can, is my opinion. But but how many people are okay with that? How many people are upset that Trump and Congress, by the way, passed a bill to defund Planned Parenthood that was founded by eugenicists who wanted to limit the population of the poor, Black people, and so on, of people she deemed to be mentally, you know, unfit. And by the way, it wasn't just her. Other eugenics like took it over. Alan Guttmacher was a eugenicist. Used to be a lot of eugenicists. I mentioned this before, but the minimum wage, eugenicists pushed for that, knowing that it would disadvantage a lot of minorities. But they didn't want the people who they deemed to be superior to have to compete against like black people who might have like undercut them for like, I don't know, $1 or something to work for a wage. And so they're like, no, we got to raise the wages because I don't want to work for what they're willing to work for. And so they got maybe those jobs for higher pay, and it unemployed different minority groups. And they knew that, and the eugenicists saw that as a good thing because if people couldn't take care of themselves, then the government had to take care of them. And if the government has to take care of them, people aren't going out there and making their own destinies. They're slaves to the need of the government. You could go look up Royal Meeker. He was under the Woodrow Wilson administration. Like, he thought it was a net benefit for people to need the government, so they wouldn't be able to go out there and have their own families, create their own opportunities, etc. So if you're really disgusted with eugenics, there's things to be worried about. Not an American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney, who's willing to sell bath water that's been tainted by her body. Like, she is so okay with capitalizing off of the fact that people like her body. She is so okay with it. You know, she's like a stone throw away for maybe like OnlyFans stuff. I don't know. I don't know if she's got like totally naked or whatever, but she's willing to say, I'm hot right now. Guys like to oogle me. I am a product I'm willing to sell. And American Eagle said, let's put that booty in some jeans. You know, and some people are trashing her butt, saying it's not that impressive. And then we're comparing it to other butts back, you know, in the 2000s before, I don't know, people were doing all the plastic surgery or whatever to enhance their butts and make their bodies all weird. Her butt's probably normal. I don't think it's like a, you know, a super great butt or whatever, but but I understand, you know, folks love Sydney. I can understand it. I think if I was a dude, she wouldn't be like my pinnacle peak, but I get it. I think a lot of folks really, really don't like white people. And there's a lot of woke people who really don't like white people, and the idea that they could see or highlight some kind of beauty with someone who is white and has blonde hair, blue eyes, which I don't think that's her natural color. But they get upset by that if people like highlight that, you know, they just see white people and they're like, that equals bad. That's immoral all of a sudden. You know, the same folks who want to, I guess, replace all the white folks in entertainment, because if you just see a bunch of white folks, that means that it's just equally just like inherently bad, I guess. And it's just exhausting just watching it. So I can't imagine being another person having to deal with all these other woke white people. It's exhausting from my side just looking at it as a non-white person. But even the Washington Post wrote a little something about it too. Let me see. Also bringing up like they said, so yes, the first thing I thought of when I heard the tagline Sydney Sweeney has great genes was the DHS Instagram account, which posted a subtly racist painting a few weeks ago and an explicitly racist painting last week. The latter depicted a gigantic blonde buxom woman chasing away the natives people to make way for white settlers. When this is the imagery being promoted by our government, a pun about genes hits differently. American Eagle or Sydney Sweeney doesn't have anything to do with a very famous portrait about American progress, where it's just this kind of like the Manifest Destiny portrait, where there's like this white angel lady like going across the land, this idea that that we are supposed to have the whole continent from the east to the west. The Trump administration did post that, which I don't know if it was to trigger people, because I'm like, well, this is definitely gonna trigger folks, and I didn't see the the necessity of posting it. I've criticized a lot of things that the Trump administration has posted because they seem too memey. You know, I've called them the administration. I think they should focus on lowering costs of, you know, items for families, job growth, lowering taxes, catching criminals, illegal aliens, you know, deporting folks, peace in the Middle East and Africa. Like there's some good things going on, and I think that should be the focus. I think, you know, posting memes from here or there is just so unnecessary. Those are things that Trump can do on his own time. I don't know. He's a president. He represents more than himself, but I don't expect him to not tweet, you know, but there are things I think Trump War Room can do, Trump campaign can do. But I guess wouldn't love for them to do, because again, he is in office, but I think official accounts that are supposed to represent the country as a whole, yes, they are representing his vision, but they're representing the country as a whole. I think they should draw away from that kind of stuff. But to hear Sydney Sweeney talk about, I've got good genes, or my genes are blue, again, the point is that they are good genes, and she has good genes, and they do happen to be blue. It's just a pun. It's just a pun. I don't know why folks feel the necessity to fear the worst or make those connections. And then even some TikToks, people are saying, well, Sydney Sweeney, she's got MAGA family, or she has to have MAGA family, and therefore they're making this connection to her and Trump and all kinds of stuff. Guys, it's just a jeans commercial. There's reasons not to like it. I'm not fond of it, again, but this rhetoric is just very interesting. At the same time, let me read this. Let's not forget ads with Jeremy Allen White, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Mark Wahlberg back in the day that has done ads in tight white underwear. Heard no women complaining about these white men. You know, I'm also thinking about, like, I don't, there's not an Abercrombie store in my mall, but I assume, is it still the same where you like have models in their underwear, like when you walk into the store or walk past the store? I mean, you'd see those ads up. I don't see them up like I used to, like some years ago, so I don't know if they just decided to kind of change things up, but it was very much, we want hot people to wear our things, and that's how we're going to market it. You know, not that ugly people don't buy their stuff, but they wanted hot looking people, or who they deemed to be hot looking people. I know I think their models were hot, but they had some good abs though, but you know, that's how they wanted to market their stuff. So this American Eagle jean situation is it's not new, but you know, I think a lot of it is I think jealousy, and I think just being woke and not liking white people. But to me this is more bizarre. Let me talk about something that I think is more bizarre than the Sydney Sweeney thing. So my sister Katrina, who's in the comments, she told me about this controversy going on. So Ralph Lauren decided to make some clothes inspired by the Oak Bluffs. So that's the area like on Martha's Vineyard where it was like a safe space where Black people would buy up, you know, cottages and houses and so on, and go and live there, vacation there. And it's multi-generational, where, you know, the parents and the grandparent, and then the children and the grandchildren would take over their parents' land there. And so Ralph Lauren did a 22-minute video, I think it's 22-minute video, explaining the history of the Oak Bluffs, and they had different folks on there. They had Valerie Jarrett on there, who was the longest, you know, top senior advisor for the Obama administration. If you guys don't know which woman I'm talking about, that's the one that Roseanne made the comment about, and she ended up getting canceled. So that's who that is. But she was in the video because she said, I think had been going to the Oak Bluffs since she was 10. And they talked about how it was like a monumental moment where like Bill and Hillary Clinton went, to, I don't know necessarily the Oak Bluffs, but the Martha's Vineyard, and Obama went to Martha's Vineyard and stuff, and hung out, I guess, at the Oak Bluffs and stuff. And since that time, I guess tourism and stuff have really exploded for that area and stuff. But long time sort of generational, wealth and happiness for some Black people. And that's fine. Like, but some people are upset about it. But they're drawing that inspiration for this line, and they're doing it in they're working with like Spelman College and like HBCU Morehouse, and so they have these different suits and sweaters and so on. And someone did a really lovely video talking about like this quilted like sweater that they have in different pictures all throughout the ad, because there'd be like quilted patchwork that people would do with like secret messages on like how to navigate ways to freedom in the slavery days. So they really are taking care with history to incorporate it into this fashion line, and in the person behind it is a Black man. And there's folks who are genuinely upset about this, genuinely upset about it. And it's so bizarre. Like I found at this point more, I don't know if people started taking down their videos. At this point, I'm finding like more videos of people like criticizing these people talking about this stuff. But it's really bizarre.
Oak Bluffs is home.
I was gonna say that.
Sorry.
Black people were able to be here, be free, build a community, and that legacy has lived on.
My aunt, she's 90 years old and lives on the island full time. And she was doing her morning walk and she looked over and MLK just did one of those quick hellos.
Being here, it allowed me, like I said, to unburden myself and to be relaxed.
The fact that I get to do that same walk, my friends live on that same street, it's just so cool.
We all still convene here every August, and we're 30 years old now, right? And we've been doing it since we were 2, some of us.
There's joy and grandparents that are relaxing and multi-generational experiences that warm our hearts and make it hard for everybody to go home when they have to.
Complete this sentence and include the whole sentence. Oak Bluffs is?
I would say simply that Oak Bluffs is special. It's important.
So it's just like a place you go to the beach, be happy, elegant. Like that's the vibe that they're going for. And folks are just like, this is elitist. And really complaining about these looks. Now, if you don't like the clothes, you don't like the clothes. Not this stuff isn't for everybody. Like, people broke it down like this isn't for the Winslow family. This is for the Huxtables, okay? Like they'd be going to like Oak Bluff. So though I could see like Cliff complaining about how expensive his kids are, but yes, like that's the vibe. The Banks would go to a place like that, relax. And it's got history in like civil rights where like MLK and other prominent people, Black feminists and folks would go there and hang out and converse about, their movements and what they are going to do moving forward and so on. So it's an interesting piece of history that they're highlighting and bringing forward that I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments say they didn't know anything about. I really didn't know anything about it either myself. So I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. I think some of the clothes are nice. I don't wouldn't wear all this like polo sweater stuff myself, but like some of the the dresses and stuff are nice. I think the men look nice in the suits and the vests. I think Oops, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. So anyway, I think the men look really nice in, you know, suits and vests, and I think men look nice in sweaters too. But, you know, like the rap culture, like the pants down, wife beaters, and all that stuff. If that's your style, the do rags and all that stuff. That's one thing. But I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if there was just some, if I don't know, if men wanted to like maybe rap, but they like just dress nice. Like, could that be a thing? Where they're just dressed in like nice suits and stuff, you know? And instead of like and it doesn't have to be gangster rap, but if it still wants to be like kind of gangster, maybe it's more like Peaky Blinders, I guess. You know? I just a thought, you know, if that exists, you can let me know. But anyway, let me show you an opposition video to this that's just really bizarre, because my sister showed about someone going off saying not everybody steals. I wasn't raised to steal, and it's just fun. It was funny, like, oh my gosh, like going off the bat, like criticizing these people, but there's a reason for that. Because folks were like saying, nah, this is the stuff that we steal. So I'll show you this video, and I'll show you. I'm not saying this other video I'll show you is a direct response, but I understand how that narrative is. It is I guess developing, where they feel the need to say that about some of these people. So there's some swearing in here, just FYI, in this video.
Black elitism got to get the fuck the same way white supremacy does. I don't give a fuck how you present it to me. I don't care. James Jeter just dropped his second collection with Polo Ralph Lauren. The first one, Morehouse and Spelman, HBCUs were the craze. Totally get it. That was a layup. I understand. Now we're in the second collection is based off of Bluff, the only section in Martha's Vineyard where Black people could gather and do their thing. Cool. I don't give a fuck about none of that. I do not want a Black all-American story when it comes to Polo Ralph Lauren, because that is not how we and people who look like me have engaged with Polo Ralph Lauren. It's never been about some elite bourgeoisie shit. We stole that shit. Like the things that you are creating, the things that you are trying to create, the things that, oh, like this is Black excellence or Black elite or whatever. We stole that shit. That is not how we engage with Polo Ralph Lauren. And for you, and while I feel like you are overly qualified to sit at the seat as creative director, you must tell these people, if you are going to leverage my Blackness to help your company, we have to do it how Black people have done it. We have to, at some point, you got to recognize the lowlifes. At some point, you got to recognize these other groups of people who look like us, how we were. It was a rebellion for us to wear these things. It was a rebellion to the American dream, to the all-American standard. We stole that shit. And for us who are using our dollar to buy polo, at best, we're talking about a Macy's dealer level. And for most of us, it's a Marshalls and Ross level. You have to get, if you are going to sit at the creative director seat, you got to understand, like, the access is at that Macy's dealer level and down. We gonna steal that shit up though. That $600 jacket, the booster's back. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying this like to promote, you know what I'm saying, nefarious behavior and shenanigans. I'm saying okay, that's how we engage with this shit. That is, we did not engage with this shit on some like, oh, but like we don't give a fuck. Like none of that shit is what we give a fuck about. And it's kind of disingenuous that you're trying to pass it on. Like, that's crazy as fuck to me.
So Kit Kat says she doesn't understand this one. People just can't. He's not joking. He did follow-up videos. People just can't imagine it. Let me tell you this story. I was working at Micro Center, and I went in the break room, and people were having a conversation about the Cosby Show. And people were saying that their issue with the Cosby Show was that they thought it was too unrealistic. I'm like, what do you mean it's unrealistic? They're like, it's too unrealistic. Cause like Cliff was a doctor. His wife was, I think, a lawyer, right? They did well for themselves. Obviously a married couple. And I maybe their wealth and the stability that they had arguments, they had conflict. They ran their house. They raised their children. The children weren't perfect, but they had very like common sense ways that they would deal with them. And they still went out and made some reckless mistakes. They were there for them and helped them through those times and supported them. But it was just wild to me. My I didn't come from a wealthy background or whatever, but I'm like, well, I did not come from a immediate family of dysfunction. I can't say there wasn't dysfunction outside of the immediateness, but but I came from a 2-parent household, 2 people who were virgins when they got married, and that solves a lot of problems, FYI, just right off the bat. And my mom wouldn't allow discourse really in the house. If we had some kind of issue, she would not let it extend to the next day or even really that night. She'd say the sun went down. She'd reference the scripture, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. And they would nip that stuff in the bud. Like if we had a disagreement or argument or whatever between siblings, my dad would listen to both sides of the story and kind of, be like, okay, well, I've heard this, you're in the wrong here and this and that. And so, to me, it was so odd that I'm arguing with people who don't believe that the Cosby Show can be realistic. Like, I know it's fiction, but there are Black professionals and have been for a very, very long time. So you don't think it's possible in that era? It just kind of shows, I think, how important that series is, and I guess how important it would be for another show like that, a cultural iconic show, for that to exist. If so many people think that Tyler Perry Black struggle is it, like that's the representation. Some people are getting sick of Tyler Perry, not just because of whack plot lines and bad wigs, but they're just like, oh, always seeing this struggle of this Black woman again and again and again and again. That's not everybody's story. People seem to believe that people came fresh out of the plantation and they just pushed them straight into the ghettos. And that's the story where people are being shot up and killed in the streets and having children out of wedlock. That is not the story of Black America. There are people who went on even after slavery and became wealthy, taking some of their skills that they learned, whether it was working on plantations and then getting their own farms and whatnot, having their own land, selling stuff, becoming massive potato farmers or whatnot, people starting their own businesses, and people collectively getting together. It's like, oh, the white people are racist. They don't want to do business with us. We'll come together and pull our money together and go buy this hospital and do this thing, do that thing. As a matter of fact, the communists started trying to convince Black people not to do those things. They didn't want them to be self-sufficient. What I don't like sometimes about like right-wing creators, they'll be like, oh, there's no systemic racism. And it's like a catch-all word. It's kind of a ridiculous sort of I guess ideology, how it exists. It's impossible kind of to not have it, I guess. But at the same time, well, let me just explain what I mean. Because systemic racism, it's the idea that if there's some kind of disparate impact or something where you see some kind of disproportionate effect between like white and Black or whatever, if the root of that is like racism somewhere, then it's systemic racism, even if there's not like a modern racist motivation. Like they don't take that into account. So I think the most obvious example of this is abortion, how it disproportionately kills Black children. But it's funny when I bring this up to people who ascribe to critical, not critical race theory, but to this racist structure and stuff. People are like, well, that's women's choice. And I'm like, but why don't you put in people's choices to all these things that could equal disparate impact? You just don't want to admit that Planned Parenthood is like fits your definition of like systemic racism. You just don't want to admit that because it makes your side look bad because you guys support abortion. But the reality is that they're Black people can do whatever they want in this country, the same things that white people can do in this country. But there is a history of people trying to hinder Black people, and not just in the days of slavery like that. There were some efforts to try to continuously throw off not just our progress, but our ability to be self-reliant. And I already went into that with things like the minimum wage and so on. So there's more to it than that. And how the communists, would use things like racism and the civil rights movement and stuff to push their ideas of communism and other things like that. But anyway, there were very successful Black people in the United States of America, and have always pretty much been, at least for a long time, maybe I won't say always, but for a very long time, like even after the days of slavery. And there are families who have enjoyed living on Martha's Vineyard for a minute, and showing that part of America and Black America. There's nothing wrong with that. And Ralph Lauren has no obligation to try to cater to the Black experience of people who would steal Ralph Lauren's. You're not their clientele. Obviously, they want people to buy their things. If you're willing to steal something that's $600, that doesn't mean that you're not willing to steal something that's $30 for yourself personally. You're an immoral person. That's your problem. You're a hood rat. It's not about the fact that it's expensive. So they don't need to. They don't need to cater to do-rag guy. They don't need to do that. Why would they do that? It's not for you, and that's okay. If it's not in your price range, it's just not in your price range. It's not for you. Not everything is for you. Katrina said, grew up in the urban community, but I understand not all Black people from one city and dress the same. Just because you're from an urban community, so it doesn't mean that you all, dress like you shop at Foreman Mills or something like. But anyway, let me show you guys this response video to the controversy. This isn't specifically made to this guy, but I can understand why right off the bat he said what he said.
Audience for this. It wasn't meant for you, and that's okay. Why is Black people being shown in a positive light such a problem for you? We didn't all grow up stealing. In fact, if I ever thought about stealing, my mom would probably put me 6 feet under. There's not one band, one sound. We are not a monolith, and we all grew up with different experiences. Not everything is out of a Tyler Perry struggle movie. The same people that have a problem with this are the same people in school talking about, look at that nigga reading. Why does he talk so white? You're so articulate. Are you trying to be white? Just for simply wanting to do well in school. This collection does an excellent job in showcasing that we have diverse styles, diverse opinions within the Black community. We started dandyism. We can dress preppy. We can do great tailoring. This collection is out of your budget and that's why you're upset. That's a totally different conversation to have. But in this day and age where we have brands like American Eagle pushing eugenics with Sweeney, it's even more important to be able to have this type of representation as a part of American culture. And having a major fashion brand like Ralph Lauren doing this is giving it exactly the amount of visibility that it needs to get. Before you guys get on here with your thought pieces, actually think about people that live outside of your bubble.
Yeah, so he brought up the Sydney Sweeney thing. Again, I don't think that's eugenics. Just because she got good genes don't mean everybody else does. And again, I don't think her hair is, I don't think she's a natural blonde. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, that's some of the responses to folks who don't like this Oaks Bluff line. It's very strange to me. Very, very strange to me. I've never, I don't think I've ever walked in a Ralph Lauren. You know, I do like some of the pieces and stuff that they've had. But just, if it's not for you, it's not for you. It's just really that simple. But yeah, it's if you're so small minded, I guess, that you're like, well, our only experience with this is stealing this stuff, and if you want to capitalize off the Black experience, you gotta cater to us. No, they don't, because you don't have a monopoly on what is the Black experience. You don't. Again, we did not just go straight from the plantation to the ghettos. That's not the story. That's not the full story. There are people who have been Black doctors and engineers and, you know, teachers and business owners, entrepreneurs for a long time. A long time. I think they said Madam C.J. Walker had visited the Oaks Bluffs too. It's an interesting tidbit of history. If you want to go and watch the video on YouTube that Ralph Lauren did, it's like 20 minutes. And they had some interesting people in there. Like they had Valerie Jarrett. I don't agree with her political stuff, but you know, she was with the Obama administration. But it was just really interesting, you know. Not everybody got the same experience, and I'm glad everybody don't have the same experience. There's things that I went through that I guess wouldn't wish on other people. Like, I survived. I'm glad nobody thought to abort me for financial reasons or something. You know, I'm glad I lived my life. But I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe that'd be a nice place to go visit and spend in the summer. And I'm like, I hope all these people aren't too woke, because a lot of them probably seem like they're Democrats. I don't know. Hopefully they're not all too woke, but yeah, maybe like one year or something to visit the Oaks Bluffs. But yeah, it's a very strange controversy. I just thought it was interesting that that's going on the same time as the Sydney Sweeney Ralph Lauren stuff. Before I go, and maybe we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but these Trump administration, and that's how the AP is reporting it. They're saying, oh, a judge struck down the Trump administration. Excuse me, they struck down the Trump administration, and that's not what happened. The Congress passed a bill that the president signed, and the Congress holds the power of the purse. And a judge was able to say, hey, you can't do that. And the legal basis, they had some things that they claimed, like they said it was a violation of the First Amendment because the Planned Parenthood does advocacy. So you can't like defund them. And that doesn't make any sense. Are you going to, if any, like if say the Democrats get in charge and they start funding like pet pot project stuff, if Congress ever decides to defund them, you can't do that. That's a violation of their free speech. It's a violation of free speech not to fund stuff. That seems weird to me. That seems weird to me. And people are pointing out, like, as far as they're making the case that Planned Parenthood was signaled out by Congress, which I don't think that's specifically the case for the big beautiful bill, but when you look at the TikTok law, that specifically carved out TikTok to go after them, and that restriction, that law trying to get them banned, was upheld all throughout the legal system. It shouldn't be operating right now. Trump is violating the law by like saying he's not going to enforce it. That's the most kind of lawless thing he's kind of got going on right now. But for the Associated Press, the judge blocked the Trump administration's efforts to defund Planned Parenthood and ordered that it keeps getting Medicaid funds. Why are you reporting it like that? Again, it's Congress. Congress holds the power of the purse. This is not something that Trump did with an executive order. It's not something that he did with AutoPen. It's something, and you could say it was very like by the line as far as like partisan politics, but it doesn't matter. It was passed, and with great effort. And to think that a judge can just be like, no, I'm not feeling it. It's pretty wild. I mean, I can read you some of the new order replaces a previous edict handed down by U.S. District Judge Adrina Talwani in Boston last week. Talwani initially granted a preliminary injunction specifically blocking the government from cutting Medicaid payments to Planned Parenthood members that didn't provide abortion care or didn't meet a threshold of at least $800,000 in Medicaid reimbursements in a given year. And listen to this reasoning. Patients are likely to suffer adverse health consequences where care is disrupted or unavailable, Talwani wrote in her Monday order. In particular, restricting members' ability to provide healthcare services threatens an increase in unintended pregnancies and intended complications because of reduced access to effective contraceptives and an increase in undiagnosed and untreated STIs. Now, Planned Parenthood does do more than abortions, but they are an abortion factory. And people will say, no, that's a small percentage of what they do. The reason why it's a small percentage of what they do is because they will count every even discrete interaction that you have as some kind of service. If they give you some birth control, let's say you go in for an abortion, and then after the abortion, they give you some birth control. Let's say they had tested you for an STD and maybe they do something else as well, like minor. Okay. And even though you went in for the abortion, they gave you 4 services. So it's still just a quarter of the reasons why you went in. So that's how they inflate their numbers. And you guys, like Live Action did a video about that some time ago. And I went and I checked the numbers myself to do the math. And I'm like, oh, that pans out. They're right. That is what they do. So you guys can go look in their reports, Planned Parenthood reports, and count their interactions, count their number of abortions, and make your own judgment to what they do. Now, something that Planned Parenthood also does is that they give out testosterone. So if you're concerned out there about your kid, maybe they have transgender kind of issues or whatever, questioning identity, just be concerned or aware that Planned Parenthood, they dish out that stuff and they give it pretty easily. I've heard stories from detransitioners who were able to access those drugs very quickly after a phone call from Planned Parenthood. So that's what they're in the business of now, but to say there's going to be an increase in unintended pregnancies, I'm like, what? Because people will live and not be killed, they're an abortion factory, guys. And there's other health clinics where people can go and get, care as well. I'm not saying that Planned Parenthood doesn't do other things other than abortion, but they are an abortion factory. So, I believe this will obviously get struck down probably quickly. But the fact that these judges think that they can make these rulings like this, throw up the law, supersede their power. Again, this wasn't something that Trump did via executive order. This is something that Congress passed after back and forth and chit chat and teetering tottering and making all kinds of deals, etc. They finally came to the conclusion where they could get it to the president's desk and he signed it. And they're saying that Planned Parenthood is entitled to these funds. So next time someone says that abortion is between a woman and her doctor, ask yourself, or ask that person rather, Why is it that they're fighting so hard for taxpayer dollars? Now, taxpayer dollars can't directly fund abortions. I think they can in like certain situations, but they're not supposed to go to fund abortions. But when you do reimburse them for other things, they can spend that money on furthering their business of having abortions or abortion advocacy. And that was one of the reasons, like, you can't shut them down because they do advocacy. They said it's a violation of their free speech. I just don't think that this judge would feel that same way about, I don't know, defunding something that was right wing. So it's a mess. It's a mess. And some people are talking about impeaching some of these judges, this one in particular. I don't know if that's a great route to go. I don't think that this person should probably be practicing law like that. Hopefully there's some kind of other mechanism that can kind of slap her down. But if we do go that route, I'm pretty sure the left is just kind of salivating at the thought of, you know, they'll say it's abuse of power and Republicans have gone too far, but I'm sure they would love to do that to our Supreme Court justices and other, you know, judges that they don't like, who appreciate the Constitution. So anyway, that's what's going on in We Don't Like Trump world. So anyway, that's the show for today. Some very interesting controversies as far as like fashion and our culture goes. But yeah, it is sad to me, the reactions that people are having about that Ralph Lauren situation. Like, you could just you can ignore things you don't like, I guess. But to just have this like imagination as if those people aren't a part of the Black experience or a Black experience, it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. And the kind of people he was also talking about in the videos of, you know, who are accused of talking white, acting white, or making fun of people because they do well in school, you know, that's something that I went through. I don't know about someone kind of making fun of me because I liked A's and good grades or whatever, but, you know, yes, for like, oh, you're trying to act this way, be this way, you're talking white, and etc. Like, I got that, you know, and I didn't grow up in Oaks Bluff or, you know, I didn't grow up in the burbs. I grew up in, you know, in urban city. So it didn't stunt my progress. I still, you know, like to do well in school and so on. But it was just bizarre to me how close-minded some people could be. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a streamer, my site, all the good stuff. So guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merchants available on the website, like this cool I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt, and I got other cool stuff. And one of them, I guess, is, you know, appropriate to mention, the My Money, My Business shirt. I made that because of discussions with abortion and our taxpayer dollars. So there's that available on the site. Also, different books you guys can check out. There's a link in the description that'll take you to the Amazon page where you guys can learn more about the different books that I have written. I have 18 that are published altogether, soon to be 19. I'll let you guys know when my next book or whatever will be out. But God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.